From ABC News, World News Sunday, here's Forrest Sawyer.
Good evening. After days of turmoil, the Soviet Union may now be on the brink of spinning apart. 7 Soviet republics have declared their independence, and tomorrow's emergency session of the National Legislature, the Supreme Soviet, may be critical in determining the country's future. For Mikhail Gorbachev, it may be the last chance to hold on to power. Again tonight, we have several reports, beginning with our Moscow bureau chief, Jim Laurie.
Last week, he faced the Russian legislature. Tomorrow, the National Soviet Parliament. It could be a stormy session. Gorbachev will present results of his investigation so far into the attempted coup and defend the historic leadership changes he's made with Boris Yeltsin and his acts abandoning the Communist Party. Gorbachev is desperately trying to regain political initiative. Some believe if the Supreme Soviet resists change, it'll be dissolved and new elections called.
If the all-union parliament becomes too conservative, too rigid, it may be simply dismissed by the decree of Mr. Gorbachev or Mr. Yeltsin.
A further blow to conservatives came with the death of Marshal Sergei Akrameyev, one-time chief military aide to Gorbachev. He shot himself at his Kremlin office. No reason given, but suspicions rose he may have had a secret role in the coup. On Russian television tonight, Boris Yeltsin said Gorbachev was partly to blame for the coup, for all the plotters were Gorbachev appointees. Yeltsin also said his offices were nearly stormed by troops. Only the refusal of one KGB unit foiled the attempt to attack and kill all inside. Soviet TV tonight also showed excerpts of a tape Gorbachev made secretly at his summer home on the Black Sea. The tape was to refute plotters' claims he was ill and establish he was being kept against his will. All day today, the people of Moscow visited the sites of the week's events. Outside the KGB, where the statue of the founder of the secret police was torn down last week, one man called for death to all conspirators, including all KGB agents. An excited woman responded, "We've already cut off the head of the Communist Party. That's good enough." Boris Yeltsin warned people tonight not to seek revenge, but only justice against coup conspirators. At Lenin's tomb today, people were reflecting on the collapse of communist rule. The lines were long for Lenin. Some said it was because they wanted to see him before he could be taken away. One man told us he had come only to see the new Russian flag without the hammer and sickle flying atop the Kremlin.
It was my dream.
It was a day to mingle, remember, and hope that the overwhelming changes this week would be the start to better lives for all. Jim Laurie, ABC News, Moscow.
Marshal Sergei Akrameyev, who committed suicide today, was instrumental in transforming U.S.-Soviet relations despite his hardline views. He was chief of staff of the Soviet Armed Forces in 1988 when he was invited to the United States by his counterpart, Admiral William Crowe. During that 6-day visit, Akrameyev and Crowe opened a new era of military-to-military contact between the two countries. Admiral Crowe is now retired, and he is an ABC News consultant, joining us this evening from Oklahoma City. Sir, when Akrameyev died, he left a suicide note that said, "Everything I devoted my entire life to building is crumbling." Now, there's a lot of speculation about why he may have killed himself. Looking at it from a distance as you are, how do you read it?
I don't know, of course, any of his involvement or non-involvement in the coup, Forrest. I'm not familiar with any of that. My experience with Akrameyev, though, is that he was a very dedicated communist. He took great pride in his army background and his participation in the Great Patriotic War, but also in the arms control affairs. And he wanted to see relations between the United States and the Soviet Union moderated. He might be what you would call a liberal communist.
Yet he had expressed some hardline views, particularly in these latter days.
Well, he was very defensive about the Soviet military. And when people criticized it, as they were criticizing it, he was a very staunch defender of the Soviet army.
For all of it, you and he did manage to open some remarkable new lines of communication between the two militaries.
Well, he wanted a gentler, kinder communist society. And he made that clear, and he thought a very important part of that would be a more cooperative arrangement or relationship between the Soviet Union and the United States. He believed in those things.
Retired Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral William Krau, thank you very much, sir. The latest republic to declare its independence from the Soviet Union is Byelorussia, traditionally one of the most conservative. But the failed coup has given new momentum to the independence movement throughout the country. And the resultant confusion has given the republics new hope their drive will succeed. Here's ABC's John Donovan.
Yet another statue of Lenin came down today, this one in Riga, capital of Latvia, one of several Soviet republics now sprinting toward independence before anyone in Moscow can stop them. Suddenly, they're getting support from outside. Today's TV news here in Lithuania could report that Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, ruled by Moscow for most of this century, are establishing full diplomatic relations with Denmark and Norway. Ties with Germany and other European countries are expected soon. Lithuania's president announcing that a representative of his government will soon pay an official visit to the U.S. State Department spoke as though full diplomatic relations with Washington are a matter of days.
Now it would be no reason to not recognize the independent Lithuania when we are really independent.
From tomorrow, Lithuania's border with Poland and its international airport will be staffed by Lithuanian border police and customs officials, working side by side with Soviets who the Lithuanians say will eventually leave. Today, a spokeswoman for the Lithuanian government said they expect to see a chain reaction of nations wanting to recognize Baltic independence. She said she cannot imagine the United States would want to be left behind. John Donovan, ABC News, Vilnius, Lithuania.
The turbulent changes in the Soviet government are being studied by a nation used to bad news. For many of the Soviet people, there is hope the new world will be better, together with a clear knowledge that change will be hard. ABC's Sheila Kast is in Moscow.
Gorky Park, the Sunday after the week that changed the world. This is a place for children and proud families. Nikolai Kursov stops doting long enough to reflect on what the week will mean for his granddaughter, Katya.
Life will get better and better by the day.
The changes triggered during the past week could affect every aspect of a Soviet family's life, but no one knows yet exactly how. At home in their suburban apartment, Nikolai's wife, Lydia, complains about inflation, about having to stand in a long line for each item she buys. She's not sure the new government can change that. Her daughter, Ira, an agent for the Soviet airline, is downright pessimistic.
From childhood, we have been taught not to be hopeful.
But Nikolai, a builder, thinks the workplace will function more efficiently now that the Communist Party has been rooted out.
You no longer have to be a party member. Now you can move up the career ladder on your own ability.
Both expect that the special privileges of the party elite now will be available to ordinary people like them.
I want our grandchildren to live the way you do.
There's still a remnant of communism in the Kursov family. Katya still wants to be a young pioneer, but only to wear the pioneer's red kerchief. Sheila Kast, ABC News, Moscow.
President Gorbachev's wife, Raisa, remains sick and at home, according to a presidential spokesman. The spokesman said she is much better today and is expected to recuperate in just a couple of days. This spokesman denied reports that she may have suffered a stroke, but refused to comment on the nature of her illness. Coming up, President Bush bides his time in granting recognition to the Baltic republics. And later in the broadcast, growing pressure for the U.S. to offer aid to the new non-communist Soviet Union, while the UN Secretary General offers new hope for Western hostages in the Middle East.
World News Sunday, brought to you by Post Fruit and Fiber Cereal.
High fiber cereal, no taste.
Great tasting cereal, no fiber.
Why have one without the other? Fruit and fiber, fruit and fiber.
Delicious raisins, nuts, dates, crunchy oat clusters, and crispy high fiber bran flakes.
It's like no other.
taste.
And high fiber.
Why have one without the other?
Post Fruit and Fiber cereal. Great taste and high fiber.
Every time it rains.
The Discover card pays a cashback bonus on every penny you charge.
Pennies from heaven.
It pays to Discover.
When you get gas pain, which would you choose? Your antacid or Gas X, the tablet made for gas pain? It's extra strength, 100% simethicone to get rid of gas faster than your antacid. Fight gas right with Gas X.
With the Soviet Union so drastically changed, U.S. foreign policy is likely to undergo its own transformation. One of the most pressing issues, whether to formally recognize the three Baltic republics, which have already declared their independence. Other Western countries are anxious to grant recognition, but President Bush has decided to wait. ABC's Ann Compton reports from Kennebunkport, Maine, where President Bush is hosting Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney at his vacation home.
President Bush wants Prime Minister Mulroney and the other Western allies to hold off on diplomatic recognition of the Baltics, pressuring Moscow instead to declare first it will let go of the three republics. He has hopes pinned on tomorrow's meeting of the Supreme Soviet.
A lot of developments going on there. It's all moving in the right direction. We'll know a little more after tomorrow, so we're just biding our time. Everyone knows our policy, which is we want to see the Baltics free. But let's see what happens tomorrow. It's going to be an interesting day.
The U.S. has never recognized the Baltics as part of the Soviet Union. On This Week with David Brinkley, Secretary of State James Baker said years of pressure are about to pay off.
2.5 years, we have been making the case as forcefully as we know how to the leadership of the Soviet Union that they would be far better off with three little Finlands on their border than they would be trying to keep the Baltic states as an integral part, in their view, of the Soviet Union. I now think that there's going to be an opportunity to see that happen.
In Washington, Defense Secretary Dick Cheney went even farther, predicting U.S. recognition very soon.
There's still a number of mechanical questions that need to be sorted out, but I think it's just a matter of time until the Baltic republics will, as they should be independent states.
Bush administration officials insisted today the U.S. is playing the leading role, pressuring Moscow for change. But with events moving so fast and allies moving even faster to recognize the independent republics, President Bush may find himself running hard to keep up. Ann Compton, ABC News, Kennebunkport.
The pressure to provide U.S. economic assistance to the Soviet Union is not only coming from Western allies. In Congress, there is growing debate over when the U.S. should offer some relief. ABC's Cokie Roberts reports from Capitol Hill.
When Congress looks at Soviet policy in the light of the coup attempt, two conflicting views emerge.
I don't think it changes much unless there's going to be fundamental change on the part of the Soviet Union.
This is the time to recognize that we've moved into a new era, and if we don't act like it, we're going to be part of the problem, not part of the solution.
To Obi, that means getting U.S. economic aid to the Soviet Union on the double, an idea that meets instant opposition.
I don't think that we could send enough American taxpayer dollars to the Soviet Union to make a dramatic impact until there are changes.
And today, a congressional leader claimed changes would bring support.
Let's see the reforms. Let's see privatization. Let's see recognition of private property. Let's see cuts in defense. And let's see shutting off of some of the foreign aid programs. Then I think, but not until then, should we move very quickly.
The fight over aid will be the biggest one facing Congress. Other areas of Soviet policy meet with general agreement, granting favorable trading status, continuing with grain sales, proceeding with arms control treaties. And U.S. defense spending will stay on its downward course, including pulling out troops from Europe, unless...
If there should be another coup, a successful coup, then of course all bets are off.
The prospect of another coup leads some in Congress to insist the time is now to do something bold to keep the Soviet Union from economic collapse. But most seem more cautious, waiting to see what happens before they commit U.S. taxpayer dollars to the old enemy, the Soviet Union. Cokie Roberts, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
In a moment, other news of the day, backstage negotiations show signs of a possible breakthrough in the Middle East hostage crisis.
Did you know that on March 10th of 1876, on the 3rd floor of this building in Boston, Alexander Graham Bell spilled some acid on his trousers. Needing help, he quickly tried his latest invention. In another room, his assistant wrote in his journal the next words he heard, feeling they may have some historical importance.
Mr. Watson, come here. I want you.
And a small business was born. Today at AT&T, we understand the kind of entrepreneurial spirit you need to run a small business. But it takes more than an idea and a dream. So we offer you almost 5,000 small business specialists in service centers all over the country to help with your long-distance needs and help you grow. At AT&T, almost half our business comes from small business. When you succeed, we succeed.
This morning, as guests at the 5-star Arizona Biltmore are tempted to breakfast, the fine brewed coffee usually served has been secretly switched to Folgers Crystals. Does it have the fresh brewed taste and aroma these guests expect?
They were just sort of waft me out of bed. Tastes like fresh ground beans.
Would help wake us up, get us going.
It's Folgers Crystals.
Bobby John, I would have thought it was brewed. Is the word elegant? Can that be used for coffee?
Mountain-grown Folgers Crystals. Coffee rich enough to be served in America's finest restaurants.
I'll drink to that.
Like Coach always said, hit him in the numbers.
Who do the pros call for an all-pro deal on hot, delicious pizza? Who do you think?
Hello, Domino's Pizza.
Call now for Domino's kickoff deal. 2 medium cheese pizzas with 4 servings of Coca-Cola Classic or Diet Coke for just $9.99. Add your favorite toppings for just a little extra. And get free NFL quarterback trading cards.
Only from Domino's.
Call now, dude.
Yeah.
Now the Middle East. This past week, the situation there, including the hostage issue, has been out of the headlines because of the overwhelming events in the Soviet Union. But today, UN Secretary General Perez de Cuellar revealed he has continued to make headway, and he thinks the hostages may soon be home. From Israel, ABC's Dean Reynolds reports.
The UN Secretary General's comments today were very optimistic.
We have to take advantage of the momentum created by the release of 2 hostages, and then anyway, as far as I am concerned, I will continue my efforts and I will accelerate my efforts.
Today, Perez de Cuellar was heading back to Geneva, where talks earlier this month on the hostage crisis reached a sensitive but inconclusive stage. The kidnappers in Beirut want to swap the Western hostages for several hundred Lebanese prisoners held by Israel. Israel is demanding information on 7 of its soldiers missing in Lebanon before it will let any detainees go. In an interview broadcast today, Israeli hostage negotiator Uri Lubrani said there is now hard evidence that at least one of the missing servicemen is alive.
We know, for instance, that Ron Arad, the navigator, is in the hands of Iranians or Iranians controlled from Tehran.
That information may well have come from Iran by way of Special UN Envoy John Domenico Pico, who was meeting with Israeli officials last week in Jerusalem and with Iranian officials earlier this month in Geneva. Israeli officials are not as optimistic as Perez de Cuellar, but sources here are saying tonight that there have been hopeful signs recently that may well lead to real progress in the coming days. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
Back in the U.S., Wichita, Kansas, today saw one of the most violent clashes yet in the 6 weeks of abortion protests there. About 70 anti-abortion protesters were arrested. That includes 2 who were accused of assaulting the director of an abortion clinic. And for the first time, police used mace on demonstrators trying to block the clinic entrance. And in Talladega, Alabama, still no end in sight for the hostage crisis at a federal prison there. Today, 150 inmates were transferred from the facility where Cuban inmates are holding 10 people. The crisis began Wednesday, just a day before those inmates were supposed to be sent back to Cuba. When we come back, the Detroit Tigers find room at the top with a little help from Sparky Anderson.
First, we created the LS400 luxury sedan. Now we've taken everything we've learned and condensed it. Introducing the Lexus ES300. All the performance of a sports sedan. All the luxury of a Lexus.
Hi. I bet you've got some leading American slices handy. Well, go get them and bring some cheddar, too, because you're going to do your own taste test. We're going to find out what makes this American deluxe. Oh, good, you're back. Now, that was quick. Put the cheddar together with your American slice. That's right. Now, take a bite. Now you have an idea. What makes deluxe deluxe? More cheddar. That's right. More cheddar makes it better. More cheddar makes it deluxe.
Everybody needs some money sometime. Everybody needs some cash some.
When you need money fast, only Western Union can get it to over 16,000 locations in minutes. Nobody else even comes close.
My heart just told me my sometime is
Western
now.
Union, the fastest way to send money.
When 1 in 4 adults looks at dairy food, their stomach says stop. Say no now, or pay later. Antacids aren't made for this problem, called lactose intolerance. But new Dairy Ease is. It's not an antacid, but a natural nutritional supplement that helps comfortable digestion of ice cream, cheese, and milk. Now enjoy dairy food as naturally as everyone else with pleasant-tasting, chewable new Dairy Ease.
Better schools. Garbage collection, firefighters. Is this what happens when cities let public services go private? Watch ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings this week.
Time to check in on sports. Ray Gandolf is in New York with a look at the winning manager of the Detroit Tigers. And, of course, he has today's sports highlights. Ray.
Thank you, Forrest. At the World Track and Field Championships in Tokyo today, Carl Lewis and Leroy Burrell both broke Burrell's world record in the 100-meter dash, but Lewis broke it better. Lewis, running in lane 5, was 5th at the halfway point, but then he turned it on to beat Burrell by 2/100ths of a second in 9.86. A game-winning hit by Lou Whitaker in the 9th inning, his 3rd RBI of the game, beat Seattle and gave the Detroit Tigers their 6th win in a row. And so the Tigers remain tied with Toronto for the lead in the American League East. How on earth are they doing it?
And he goes down swinging. Swing and a miss. 3-2 pitch. Got
it. The Detroit Tigers have the lowest batting average in the American League. They will strike out about 1,200 times this year. Their pitching staff has the worst earned run average and has given up more runs than any team in the league.
3-2 Blue Jays.
So why are they battling for the lead in their division? One reason has to be Sparky Anderson, the only manager to win a World Series in both leagues, only manager to win 800 games in both leagues, even though he says he has never won a game.
Okay, I've always said this and I'll never change. 0. And I'll tell you why. You can make decisions, but they have to do it. There's nothing you can do but try to put the right people in the right spot at the right time. If you do that, you've done your job. That's all you can do. I try to tell young managers, whatever you do, don't try to think it's you. Because when you do, that's when you're going to be the short order coach. Because it's them. They will do it. I say that good coaches usually have things fall in their lap. They don't go out and create it. It falls in their lap.
Last year, Cecil Fielder fell into Sparky's lap with a crash heard round the world. Fielder led the league in home runs and RBIs and is likely to again this year. The other night in Comiskey Park, he drew more attention than all the other Tigers and the White Sox combined. This year, Mickey Tettleton came over from Baltimore and has hit 25 home runs.
This one will be gone.
Rookie Milt Kyler has added speed and defense. He has stolen 31 bases. Pitcher Bill Gullickson, picked up as a free agent, has won 16 games.
Got him on a fastball.
But Sparky Anderson is the glue that holds all those egos together. Because 2 years ago, when his team finished last for the only time in 22 years of managing, and he was exhausted and had to take a few weeks off during the season, then Sparky Anderson found out what baseball is really all about.
I thought you were supposed to die a little. That's what my favorite saying was. I'll show you how bright I am. My favorite saying was that you should die a little with each loss. Well, I was. I was slowly killing myself with each loss. And I realize now how much fun our game is. This is a fun game. That's what baseball was meant to be. It's a playground game taken into these big stadiums where they pack all the people. But forget all the people. Let's have fun and pretend that we are out in the playground playing. Hey, no, the bag!
Sparky Anderson, a man who knows how to win friends, influence people, and win pennants. Forrest?
All right, thank you, Ray. Looks like he's having fun. I'll be back with a final report in just a moment.
Your pets go many places during the course of a day, and you can't always protect them when they go into flea and tick-infested areas. We can. Used as directed, Hearts Blockade for dogs and cats repels and kills fleas and ticks, including ticks that carry Lyme disease. By creating a barrier, Hearts Blockade prevents these pests from living on your pets. Helping to improve your pet's quality of life is your responsibility. Helping you do that is Hearts.
Today, there's a prescription-strength cure for athlete's foot. Lotrimin AF, the #1 prescribed athlete's foot medication available without a prescription. Lotrimin AF, the prescription-strength cure for athlete's foot.
I need a laxative that can work dependably.
Doxadan can.
But can it be gentle?
Doxadan can. Doxadan works dependably overnight with a special ingredient for gentle relief.
Dependable, yes. Gentle, yes.
Doxadan can.
Monday, what lies ahead for the people of the Soviet Union, and drivers beware, America's most dangerous bridges. And later in the week, Whoopi Goldberg on Good Morning America.
Once again, today's top story, the fast-paced changes in the Soviet Union. Belarusia has become the 7th Soviet republic to declare its independence. President Gorbachev is preparing for tomorrow's emergency session of the Soviet parliament, where his political fate and the fate of the Soviet government could be determined. And Gorbachev's top military advisor, Marshal Sergei Akrameyev, who had not been linked with the coup at all, has committed suicide, and he left behind a note saying everything he had been working to build is crumbling. ABC News will continue to monitor the situation in the Soviet Union 24 hours a day. Of course, we will bring you updates as events warrant. But for now, that's World News Sunday. I'm Forrest Sawyer, and for all of us here at ABC News, good night.
From Washington, this has been World News Sunday.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Sunday.
This is the 44 Automatic.